Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Automation webinar. We're delighted that you can join us this morning. My name is Kim Gray, and I'm Head of Insurance and Head of Diversity and Inclusion in NTT Data in the UK. This morning we're going to talk about automation projects that have been running in the London market. We're going to touch on some of the things that has meant that they're slow to take off, or they've been stalled, or they've failed to meet their objectives. It's certainly not because the technology doesn't work. So technology is proven, but the way the projects are set up in the first place is not optimal. So this morning we'll cover how do you set your project up for success, what are the pitfalls to avoid, and how can you get the outcome that you intended at the beginning of the project. New business models have emerged, which means that you don't have to lay out big costs at the start of these projects anymore. You can buy into a managed service, or you can rent bots by the hour. All of these things are possible, and they're going to be important as we start to return back to the office, and automation moves higher up the agenda for everyone. Now, just to mention that we've pre-recorded this webinar, but there will be a live Q&A at the end of it. So just as we're going through, just jot down any questions you've got and we will attempt to cover them at the end. I'd like to start though by introducing our key guest, Dame Inga Beale, who many of you will know as the former CEO of Lloyds of London. Inga has been working with NTT DATA UK as an advisor for the past 6 months, and she's helped inform our insurance strategy and our go-to-market plan. She's also a valued guest at our D&I events. Inga.
Thank you, Kim. And it's great to be here today to talk about technology and automation transforming the world of insurance. And about time too. I've been driving change in the insurance sector for many years, since the 1990s. But now it seems like the perfect time to really change the way we work. We've seen with the COVID-19 crisis how we have managed to equip thousands of employees to work from home. Miraculously, we've got virtual working just happening. And people have embraced technology. So what a great opportunity to build on the momentum, to show that we can actually increase productivity, we can reduce errors, and we can get people freed up to do value-added tasks for customers and move them away from the more repetitive things that they have to do at work. Let's build on the momentum we have. Let's go about and think about adopting technology to automate the world of insurance. I'm going to hand over now to Matt Kearney, who'll talk you through some of the options for the London market.
Thanks, Inga. My name's Matt Kearney and I'm the Senior Strategy Director here at NTT Data. One of the first hurdles companies face on their automation journey is deciding exactly which processes to begin with. Now, there can be a tendency to choose processes that employees don't like, as opposed to the processes that have the largest value for the business. This is a common pitfall and something my colleague Hayden will talk to you about a little later on. But what I'd like to do now is take you through 5 processes that are tried and tested from a London market perspective. Number 1, creating and collating the relevant claims information. Pulling that information from different systems, databases and spreadsheets is something that back office staff across the market will be only too familiar with. It's very time consuming, providing that single view to the broker, but extremely important. This is something though that can actually be taken on board by a virtual worker. The virtual worker, using a predefined template, can undertake this work simply and easily for you. Number 2, part of the underwriting process itself. This is about entering the risks into the policy admin system itself. A virtual worker can pull information both from internal and external systems, enabling you to bring it all together in the policy documentation itself. Number 3, some key financial processes. Cash matching, bordereau, invoice, and PO approval. And we would specifically call out the pre-renewal bordereau process. The thousands of rollovers that have to be dealt with every year can be extremely time-consuming, difficult to resource up for, and also create data quality challenges due to, frankly, the mundane nature of the work. A virtual worker can help you to solve all of those problems and also make yourself extremely popular with the staff to boot. Number 4, first notification of loss process, FNOL, is something that takes up a lot of time for frontline staff dealing with customers. But by pairing robotic process automation and chatbot technology, you can create a superior virtual worker. This is something that's extremely straightforward these days and will enable you to remove most, if not indeed all, of that F&O process, creating a self-service option that will both help you as a business and also help the customer, creating a self-service solution in line with other aspects of people's lives. Number 5, the new starters and leavers processes. This is something that can really eat up a disproportionate amount of time in HR. Virtual workers can undertake that mundane work, automatically filling in templates for starters and leavers, and also providing the changes of access as well. Again, another self-service model, both for employees, which gives them the benefit of being able to do that themselves, but also freeing up valuable time for the managers to get on with other work instead. Now, of course, there are a lot more than 5 processes that you can focus on from a London market perspective, but these are ones that actually are proven to reduce costs, increase productivity, and provide a greater degree of accuracy in terms of your data, and also make your employees happier to boot. Just to give you one example, we worked with a mid-sized commercial insurer to improve one of its front office processes, and this created a saving in the region of £300,000 over 3 years. So it's something to think about there. Now I'll hand you over to my colleague Hayden.
Thanks, Matt. My name is Hayden Heath, and I'm the lead consultant for intelligent automation in the insurance sector. So over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to talk to you about 5 common pitfalls that have limited the success of automation projects in the insurance industry. Now, falling into some of these traps and not getting it right first time can result in companies finding their automation programs, not sustaining the benefits over time, and being unable to cope with changes in IT or business operations. So companies can then feel they've wasted their investment and they can back away from automation altogether. Implementing sustainable intelligent automation means quite a different approach. So one that's coordinated, one that's integrated across the enterprise with a key focus on people and a key focus on change management. Now, let's take a look at the 5 pitfalls to avoid. So the first, which Matt talked about briefly, is to not let those who shout the loudest guide your decision on which process candidates to automate. So in one case, we worked with an insurer that had selected 20 processes for automation, and then our analysis revealed that actually only 5 of those were suitable for automation and drove real business value. So it's important to make your decision based on fact and not emotion. So that means using data, using analytics to reveal how the process works in reality, not how people think it works. We need to establish business objectives, understand the process fully, re-engineer it to make it more efficient and suitable for automation, and implement a sustainable automation solution. So the second trap to avoid is thinking that robots are the first and the only answer. So often a process can be re-engineered to make it more efficient without it even being automated. So to give you a real example, we worked with a specialist insurance company that wanted to deploy an automation to achieve a 34% reduction in time and effort. However, we showed that by re-engineering the process, an 86% benefit could be achieved even before we deployed automation. Thirdly, it's important to try not to automate a complex end-to-end process at the outset. This can easily lead to failure as teams just try to do a bit too much. So picking the process is really important. Instead, Start small by automating a simple task, or break down a more complex process into manageable and isolated chunks. Consider the collection of policy data from a bordereau file, for example. Prove that it works, deliver value early, and then move on to widening the solution across the business. Our fourth pitfall is not engaging the people who will be most affected by the automation. You need to implement effective change management that shows people what their roles will be after automation and how it will help them in their teams, in their day-to-day roles. Teams then feel ownership, they actively support the change, and they become champions for future automation within the team and across the business. Fifth and finally, don't overcommit yourself. Think about the model that suits your business and the current demand. Avoid those high upfront infrastructure costs, the long-term licensing agreements, and instead consider a pay-as-you-use service, minimize cost and avoid waste. As your benefits grow across the business, you can scale up into a wider managed service to meet the demands. Now, hopefully these 5 pitfalls will give you a bit of an insight into the right approach to automation and how you can sustain benefits over time. So now I'm going to pass you over to Tom Clare, and he's going to talk to you about 3 ways that NTT Data can help you start your automation journey right now.
Thank you, Hayden. In this section, I want to talk to you about your next steps and how you can best move ahead with your intelligent automation program. Now, in shaping our offering, we took the learning from our existing deployments within the London markets and paid very close attention to the responses from the History Made Faster survey. That survey asked you, over 100 senior stakeholders from within the broker, syndicate, and managing agent communities this question: how is the market currently geared to cope with new technologies and the changes required to deliver them within an organisation? Over 80% of respondents stated that automation had the potential to either radically or significantly develop their business. Over 50% of respondents stated that legacy systems were holding them back against newer and more agile entrants into the market. Over 2/3 stated that change functions lacked empowerment within their organisations, and 88% stated that they struggled to make a business case for the adoption of new technologies, with lack of skills being one of the greatest inhibitors in the uptake of that new tech. So, with these factors in mind, the next steps in your automation journey need to begin with an understanding of exactly where you are right now. And we see 3 key levels of maturity. Firstly, there is what we will describe as the initiate group. These organisations are at an early stage. They are looking at automation, but have yet to take any significant action or progress beyond simple proofs of concept. They have not yet set any budget and are looking for a better understanding of the business case for automation and exactly how it can be implemented. The next step for the key stakeholders and decision makers within these organisations is to understand exactly what success looks like. And this is best done by reviewing effective and successful projects in similar organisations. Then they need to set some initial and achievable objectives on costs, resources, and schedules. Next, we come to the to be convinced group. This second grouping has typically deployed some automation, but the expected benefits have not necessarily been realised. They haven't lost faith though. They are prepared to have another shot at automation if and only if an appropriate business case can be established. The next step for the process owners and budget holders within this group is to gain a detailed understanding of exactly why projects may not have succeeded. They also probably need to establish a solid business case process and agree what a successful project should look like. Finally, there are what we would describe as the progressives. This group understands the value of automation and has already analysed and selected existing processes as candidates for automation. Their need now is to run vendor comparisons, to investigate different automation ownership and utilisation models, as well as how best to scale, sustain and support those implementations. Our recommended next step for this group is for the stakeholders and the decision makers to establish their buying process, to lay down budget estimations and to set some time schedules. They probably need to understand the process of building automation. They need to understand what business models are going to exactly fit their needs and what exactly they will need from potential suppliers. NTT Data can help. We offer tailored workshops that can be set up quickly and run remotely, online, during lockdown to help you take your next steps and to address the specific needs that you have, no matter what stage of the automation journey you are currently at. Thank you very much for your time, and I will now hand back to Dame Inga for some closing remarks before we move on to the Q&A session.
Thanks, Tom. And if there's one thing to get out of today, it's that the time is now. What a fantastic opportunity. You've heard from Matt about some of the processes that are ripe for automation. You heard from Hayden about some of the pitfalls to avoid when choosing what to automate. You then heard from Tom with some concrete steps to get started, and also the difficulties of getting people on board. Let's face it, while this might be about technology, it's fundamentally all about people, and we have to bring them along with us. So, over to you. You're the leaders of the London market. Be brave and drive the change that's required. Be brave and don't go back to business as usual. Thanks for listening, and I'll now hand back to Kim, who will take us through the Q&A. If you haven't already, please send your questions through using the Q&A tab. Thanks for joining.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm looking at the right-hand side of the screen, and I think somebody has hopefully just submitted a question. So the first question that has been raised is around processes. So we talked about 5 processes, but there's a question about more than 5 processes. What are some of the other processes? I'm going to Hayden to answer that question. Hayden, can you hear?
Thank you, Kim. Yes. Absolutely. So I think the first element Kim, to think about as we talked about not only the white paper, but also the webinar is around the right process. So we need to make sure we're looking at processes with high volume, high number of people involved, simple processes that start. So we're looking at swivel processes, retyping information, structured data, and only a few systems potentially interacting with the process. So if we look at the value across, underwriting, claims, reinsurance, and finance, there's quite a few processes that are like automation. So give you some sort of examples to go over 5. So risk assessment, risk pricing, policy issue, claims around checking claims payment information, some of the claims admin processes, and then also looking into more around exposure management, so cat modelling, aggregate exposure. All of these processes are ripe for automation, but it is important that you get the right process, and every process can be very different across broker and managing agent. So it's important to do that analysis and understand what the process is up front. Obviously, in a one-to-one basis, we can go through in more detail some of the other processes and how we can help fit the needs of your business.
Kim, you need to unmute.
Sorry, thank you. During the session that you just saw, we heard reference, Tom mentioned some statistics from a piece of research that we conducted at the end of last year. So just to let you know that we will be sending to you the History Made Faster research in a report as a follow-up to this session. One of the other questions that I've been asked is around the technology. So what technology are we supporting in the managed service that we provide around automation? So Daniel, I'm going to direct that question to you. Daniel?
Hi.
Great.
Yeah, so we're supporting sort of UiPath, which is the leading vendor at the moment in the sort of RPA space, and Blue Prism are the two main ones. We can support others if you have a particular requirement, but these are the ones that we would recommend as being the easiest to deploy and the most cost effective.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just as we're going through, we've literally got 6 minutes left. If you have a burning question, please remember to submit it via the Q&A tab. And then the other question that we have been asked, which is around the timing in terms of typically, if you're starting in the process of automation, how long does the first piece take typically, or what would we recommend in terms of how long it should take? I'm going to come to Hayden and possibly include Deborah in the answer to that question.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, so can you hear me okay, just to check? Yeah, perfect. So it's definitely one of those questions where it depends on the process. So different processes have different complexities. So to give you an example in terms of upfront analysis, we worked with Tesco Mobile, for example, where we did, we've gone through sort of 30 processes in 2 weeks from an analysis perspective to understand what is right for automation and what's the business case around it. In terms of actual deployment, so in terms of t-shirt sizing, if you look at like a simple process, we would look to get that live in sort of circa 5 to 6 weeks. And that ranges up to sort of medium at around 9 weeks and complex at around 15 weeks. So that sort of gives you a little bit of a flavour around what you would expect, but it can depend on the process.
Thank you. So I'm getting some updated questions coming through now. Jackie Hedges asks us, what advice would you give to a small Lloyds managing agent who has a strong desire to automate, but where the business case is not always compelling in terms of cost savings? I'm going to go to Daniel first, and then Deborah, I might ask you to just add to that answer.
So the business case, there's many dimensions to the business case. Obviously, there is sort of direct cost savings where manual work is being moved to automation. There are other elements that need to be considered. So there could be cost avoidance. So if there is risks of fines or lost business because a process hasn't been done correctly or an error in the process. Can also be a benefit in the business case around speeding up the process and avoiding, obviously there are deadlines within the London market of submission to Lloyds, being able to make sure that you hit those targets and you don't breach any requirements. The other one is more looking forward from a regulatory perspective, where you need to make sure that you want to release people away from a process the skills that potentially you want to work on other activities. So actually it's more what could these people do if they had the time? What additional value could they do if we took away the day-to-day mundane operations that they're looking at? So all of these need to be looked at holistically to see when they look at the case. Okay,
great. Deborah, anything you would add?
Yes, certainly around the regulatory and compliance, that's definitely an area. Time-sensitive processes where there's peak activity across renewal season and so forth, and to deploy the the colleagues around to focus much more on customer experience to increase the connection with their customers as well. That usually is a great addition to the business case.
Thank you. One more question. We have a couple of minutes left. What quantum of ROI can one expect from automation? I'm going to direct that to Matt.
Sorry, Kim, could you say that again? I lost you then just for a second.
What quantum of ROI can one expect from automation?
I mean, again, from a sort of a process perspective, obviously it varies, but certainly, you know, the range of kind of ROI would be sort of from a 1 to 4 ROI up to potentially a kind of you know, a 1 to 30 kind of ROI, again depending upon the process. But I think just to echo the point that just previously made by Daniel and Deborah. Obviously, the direct kind of cost saving is only kind of part of that calculation, and there are the other factors that you would want to take into account as well. So it's very much kind of on a you know, a process by process case per organisation.
Great. I have one last question. We've got 1 minute left, so Rob Humphreys will try and answer this very quickly, hopefully. Are there any future plans to approach any potential existing insurance clients for automation involving the SDC service that Lloyds provides? Deborah, can I ask you to answer that one?
Yeah, of course. So absolutely, that's a process that we're working on currently in order to identify the key processes for automation, and it is one of the areas of service that we're looking to offer to our customers. So happy to engage in some analysis workshops with you to understand how that can impact your teams directly.
Great, thank you. That takes us dead on to the hour at 10 o'clock. Thank you to all of our guests that joined us this morning. We will send you a copy of History Made Faster after this event. Thank you.